Hello, everyone. Welcome to Keeping It Real with Amaryllis. Today, I want to talk about things that I would like to do if elected. I've spoken before about my top 3 priorities, which are recruiting and retention, training, and community policing. Now, today, I just want to talk about other things that I would like to do because I've just about in every interview spoken about the recruiting and retention, the training, the community policings, and my plans for that. So I just wanted to speak a little bit more elaborately on the other things that I want to do. So, my other top priority outside of my top 3 that I'm super passionate about is I want to create a CISM unit at the agency. I know there are several agencies that have a CISM unit, and what CISM stands for is Critical Incident Stress Management. And basically, they're there to help not just the deputies, but all employees with any stress management. And if there's any incidences that maybe a shooting, a drowning child, they can come in and help the officers with stress management, debriefing, and all of that. And I think it's super important because I feel that in the 17 years that I've been there, it's never truly been a priority. And as times change, I feel that people are more open to mental health because right now it's still kind of a stigma in law enforcement. In the military, we always talk about mental health. We do training on PTSD, we do training on resiliency, but in law enforcement, that's something that's honestly not spoken about. We talk about mental health of others, and we do training such as CIT to teach the deputies how to handle the public who has any mental health issues, but we don't take care of our own. So that's something that for me is super important. We did have somebody under Lopez that was hired, and she was great, but she was not utilized how she should have been. So the unit never really took off the way that it was intended to. For example, her office was in between literally the captain and major's office for patrol. So if you're an officer and you're having a mental health breakdown, that is literally the last place you're going to want to go and talk to somebody. And I would actually love to make it outside of the sheriff's office, like find a location that is more private so they feel more comfortable. And I want to make it mandatory to where if they were involved in an incident that they have to go to counseling. Right now it's optional. You can go to EAP and you can get a couple sessions, but oftentimes men don't really like to talk about their emotions. And I say this because I've literally worked around men almost my whole life between the military and law enforcement. So I think if we make it a requirement, then they don't have to talk if they don't want to, but at least they're getting the resources that they would need, because sometimes these incidents don't hit you right away and you think that it's not affecting you, but over time you see that these things are really affecting you, and it's important to at least have the resources. The other thing that I would love to bring to the sheriff's office that we've never had is a liaison unit between the state attorney's office and the sheriff's office. I feel that we've lost that relationship. For example, these last 2 sheriffs, there was a lot of drama between Gibson and Ayala, and then it was Lopez and Worrell. So I think it's important to create a unit that's going to have that open dialogue. Maybe we can do training together so we can know what their expectations are and vice versa. And that way we just communicate and have better communication so we don't keep having incidences where we're saying, oh, well, they're not doing their job and they're not doing their job, and we're both pointing the fingers, but we're not open to have an open dialogue and agree to disagree and come maybe to a solution. So I think that that's something that's really important to have. I know other agencies have it and it can be very effective. So with the tensions between the state attorneys and the sheriff's office in these past few years, that's something that I definitely want to do. Another thing is I want to have a grant specialist. So basically a grant specialist, what they do is they specialize in finding grants that are out there. There's tons of grants for either certain positions for officers to do certain things, for training. There's grants out there for so many things, and it can save us so much money so that we can use some of that funding towards other things that are more of a priority, but we don't have somebody who specializes in that. So there's a lot of opportunity that is missed because we don't have someone. Another thing that I would like to do is I want to have a point system for promotions. So we have the way that it is right now. Let's say 5 officers go to an interview. Let's say they're interviewing for a detective position. Out of those 5 officers, there's a board of 3 members that are doing the interview. And out of those 5 officers, let's say 4 of them did well. So the people on the board, they say whether they're acceptable or non-acceptable. So if they're acceptable, then basically that list of those people goes up the chain of command and the chief gets to pick who they want out of those 4 people. So it leaves a lot of room for favoritism. And the way that we had it before is that the people on the board would score and kind of say like, okay, we think this person did the most, so they're number 1. Then this person would be second, third, and fourth. So the person who got number 1 would get the position, which that is great as well. So I feel that it was a little bit more fair. However, it's not the most effective either. And the reason is because there's some people that are just not good interviewers. They get in their head or they're not good test takers, but that doesn't mean that they wouldn't be a great detective or a great supervisor. So I think it's important to have a point system so that way we're getting super qualified people in these positions and we're not leaving room for favoritism. Like, let's say, for example, you have military experience and you get so many points for that, or you've been at the sheriff's office for X amount of years, so you get so many points for that. You have a degree, you get this many points for that. You've worked in all these other units, so you get so many points for that. And that way, on that point system, whoever gets the most amount of points would be the person who gets the position. And I think that that would make it more about qualifications than it is about favoritism. The last thing that I would like to do, and there's tons of other things, but the last thing on my list that I'm going to talk about today is I want to enhance our aviation unit. I feel that there's a lot of ways that we can cut corners without cutting back on the quality of the unit. For example, a lot of our funding goes to aviation because it's so expensive to manage. So out of the funding that we do get, a huge chunk of that goes to aviation. And I think that there's certain things that we can do. For example, we always outsource our training. So we always pay somebody to come in and train our new pilots, and they do all the training, but we don't actually invest in our own people. For example, we can take one of our pilots, maybe one of the senior pilots, send them to become a trainer so they can do the training to be a trainer, and then they can train all the other people that are coming in. This way, we're saving all of that money, and we would just have to pay like what we pay our FTOs, which is our training officers, and we would pay them, that maybe a little bit more because it's so specialized. But I think that alone would save us so much money. And I've spoken to several people who've either worked in the division or currently work there, and they have a lot of great ideas. However, nobody's really listening. And I think it's because of lack of knowledge. Like, there was a lot of things that I didn't know that's how it worked until they told me. So I think it's important to educate ourselves. Right now, we're currently in early voting, so get out there and vote. It's sad, but we've only had 9% of registered voters go out to vote thus far. We do have until the 18th, so we have a few more days. All of the polling locations are open from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. They're also open Saturday and Sunday, so you don't have any excuses. You can come on your day off, you can come after work, you can go before work or on your lunch hour, but definitely get out and vote. I know at times you may think that your vote isn't going to matter, it's just one vote, but it does matter. And the only way that we're going to create change in our county is by getting out there and making the difference together. Go out and vote. If you have any questions that you would like to ask me before you decide to go out and vote, you can contact me through any of my social media. My email is also on my website, and reach out to me and I'll gladly answer whatever questions you may have. But get out and vote. Let's create history together. Thank you guys. Appreciate you for listening.